Your Power Platform projects are undoubtedly saving your organization money, reducing risk, and bringing other intangible benefits. Have you measured them? Microsoft has a team that is focused on this type of measurement, and today Robert Smith is going to share their tools and a real example on PowerCat Live. Welcome to PowerCat Live. My name is Phil Topness with the PowerCat team, and today I'm here with Robert Smith, Global Black Belt Director of Business Value Management. Hey, Robert.
Hey there, Phil.
So before we start talking about the things you do to measure the business value our customers get from Power Platform, how'd you get into this role?
I joined Microsoft 6 years ago to work with my business value colleagues to build out value propositions to understand how our technology impacts organizations. So trying to convert a kind of a technical story into one which is much more about understanding the business value outcomes that we're driving. And over the last few years, I've really started to work much more on with Power Platform use cases. So it's been really interesting and exciting, kind of working with organizations that have started from just a few seats of Power Platform now with organizations looking at enterprise-wide deployments and how that's measured, how we can measure the value of those.
And in PowerCat, we know those customers well. So talk about why is this important? Why is measuring business value so critical?
Well, I think the underlying word I would use there is driving adoption. That's two words, I guess. But the first part of that is if we're trying to get senior stakeholder engagement to get them excited about a project and about a transformation project, I think it's really important to have a compelling value story behind the program, so we can really explain why Power Platform is important in words that mean something to them. So things about, how will this impact initiatives that they're thinking about?
Now, but you work for Microsoft, so why are you the one measuring the customer's business value? Isn't that what the customer should be doing?
I guess there's a couple of perspectives on that. The first is clearly from Microsoft's point of view, we're really interested in having customers that are getting value from our technology, and we love to hear reference stories that include great anecdotes about the value proposition. But I think from a customer perspective, often the teams we work with are very focused on the kind of the IT hurdles, the technology hurdles they're trying to overcome. How are they going to solve a problem, and not necessarily perhaps quite as experienced in quantifying that value proposition.
So then what is the process like for measuring this? Are there any tools or techniques that you can share with the people watching?
Yeah, so during those initial ideation sessions, I think a simple spreadsheet like this one is often really useful, just to capture that long list of use cases, capturing basic data, how many people are affected by this, how often might they use this particular process, and then also some data around. Here we've noted things like criticality, urgency, complexity. So criticality is this process critical to the business? So if this process breaks down, is it going to cause the business to stop functioning, or is this something much less critical? Ordering coffee pods or something like that. Urgency.
Coffee is important, Robert.
Coffee is important. You're absolutely right. But in terms of urgency, does my existing process work? Is it functional, but it could be improved, or is that current process broken or missing? So if you think about, if we cast our mind back, 18 months ago when we were coming into, maybe things like coming into lockdown, stuff like that, there are lots of problems that were falling into that urgent list. I need to be able to look after my teams. I need to be able to provide or provision equipment or whatever it may be. So there are a lot of urgent requests in that, so high urgency. Some problems, of course, are less urgent. And then complexity is just a note about how complex is that problem going to be to solve? Do I have to hook up or connect multiple systems, or is this, relatively speaking, a simple process? So we can use those different factors to then start to prioritize use cases. So when we move into prioritizing those use cases, I found that this 4 box is really helpful.
Sure.
So if we think about the two axes, the axis going from top to bottom, is this something that I can measure, or is this sort of difficult to measure, if you like? And then on the left side, we've got kind of money coming in, on the right side, money coming out. So if I think about something which is measurable, about money coming in, this is improving performance, whether that's things like growing revenue. Is this going to help me grow my revenue? Or if in some industries, of course, it's things like, am I going to improve the performance? Am I going to improve the outcome for my customers or my citizens or whatever that may be? And then as we move to the top right, cost savings. So are these direct cost savings? I'm going to reduce the amount of paper I'm consuming or fuel I'm using. And then as we move down the bottom here, so things like transformation, so working in different ways, it can be a bit more difficult to quantify that. And similarly, risk. Risk is something which often people have to think a little bit more about. How do I quantify the measurable benefit of mitigating a risk?
And so someone watching that wants to get started and trying to implement some of this, where do they get started?
Well, I'm just going to walk through a very simple example, if that's all right. And this was a real conversation I had with a customer. We were talking about different ideas. We're at that kind of ideation phase where we're reviewing different use cases for Power Platform. We were thinking about a use case that involved a vehicle check. So the as-is process was basically that all of their vehicle drivers before they set off, they should complete a paper form, and they had 10 minutes allocated to do this vehicle check, and the estimation was maybe they'll save 2 or 3 minutes on that process if it was a digital, phone app or something like that.
Right.
And it's easy to do a quick, back of an envelope calculation there. 2 to 3 minutes. I've got 1,000 vehicles being checked every morning. Maybe you could assign some value to the, what's the cost per hour, etc. And you can start to sort of calculate that value. But ultimately, there's always that kind of gotcha or that killer question. What are we going to do with those minutes? Well, yeah, in that case, if they're saving 2 minutes on a vehicle check, they're probably going to just get in their van or truck 2 minutes quicker and head off, or go and get a coffee on their way, or whatever it may be. So the problem there is that those aren't kind of real minutes, in terms of we're not going to not pay people for those 2 to 3 minutes by doing their vehicle check quicker. So you've got an employee experience, clearly you've got that kind of, okay, this is an easier process and it's more digital. It's more fun to fill it out on an app than it is on a piece of paper. But ultimately the kind of tangible cost saving was kind of tricky at this point. But then by applying that full box and by thinking about it a bit more, the conversation basically sort of, okay, so what happens to that paper form? Well, actually, that paper form ends up in a filing cabinet. And okay, so if it's a paper form ending up in a filing cabinet, that means there's no central visibility. No, that's right. So actually, do you have any idea if people are actually filling out these forms? Well, we don't actually. We have no clue whether it's 10% of vehicles are checked in the morning or 100%. Absolutely no idea. So then, as soon as you started to, the light bulb moment there, of course, it's in terms of, actually, if we had that better data and we could start to look at ways that you could not only ensure that vehicles are being checked on a regular basis, you could then think about, okay, by checking my vehicles more regularly, surely that's going to improve vehicle safety. But in addition to that, I could maybe look for early kind of resolution of issues, maintain it better now rather than having to repair it at the roadside later on. But also that whole employee kind of experience, customer experience, I don't want to have disrupted service because my vehicles are, at the roadside broken down or something. So this is just an example, but it's just about saying what started out as being a bit of a dead end with 2 to 3 minutes time saving actually ended up being a really good use case where you can take a paper-based process, digitize it, and have that kind of intelligence, and then use that data centrally to make some much better decisions and have a much better view of my process globally.
That's fascinating, because I've seen a lot of analysis that ends at the 2 to 3 minutes, and that really does kind of connect it up to the overall corporate strategy and risk. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk about how we measure business value. I appreciate it.
It's been great talking to you, Phil.
Now, before you go, we are making new videos every week. Click this Microsoft logo to subscribe, and you'll be the first to see them. And look over here for a couple of videos that can make you a Power Platform expert.